Oh, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we are going to be watching a video titled "The War in Iran is Spreading Fast," since I feel like it's important to know what's going on, and there's a lot going on right now, so I thought that we could dive into this together. And yeah, with no further ado, let's see what this video is about.
It's day number 2 of the war in Iran, and the Middle East is devolving rather quickly. US and Israeli forces are thought to have launched multiple thousands of strikes across Iran as of the time of writing, and Iran has retaliated with wave after wave of drones and ballistic missiles. Across the region, cities and civilian targets are coming under attack, and in Iran, the man who ruled the Islamic Republic as supreme leader is now confirmed dead. The war in Iran is worsening by the hour, and we have no time to waste, so let's get into it. Lay of the land. At the outset of today's episode, we've got to give our usual disclaimer. Everything that we're about to discuss is accurate to the best of our knowledge and ability as of mid-morning on the 1st of March, local time in Tehran. That's just a bit past dawn in Central Europe and a bit after midnight on March the 1st in the eastern United States. Anything that's happened after that time will not be accounted for in this episode, although at this point you can rest assured that we'll be back with more updates in the very, very near future. Now, across the Middle East, the offensive against Iran is unfolding very quickly. For perspective, US defense officials told American media that within just the first 12 hours of fighting, Washington had carried out nearly 900 strikes across Iran. According to Israeli sources, Jerusalem's first wave alone leveraged around 200 fighter jets, striking a total of around 500 targets. The two nations are believed to have hit targets in most of Iran's provinces at this time. According to Israeli sources, Jerusalem and Washington are dividing targets, with the Americans focused primarily on the Iranian military and its nuclear facilities, while the Israelis focus on Iranian leadership and its missile launch capabilities. In a statement to the global press, US Central Command, or CENTCOM, described its operation, codenamed Epic Fury, as, quote, the largest regional concentration of American military firepower in a generation. In response, Iran is believed to have fired several hundred ballistic missiles thus far, as well as large numbers of one-way attack drones. In Israel, the rate of Iranian attacks picked up substantially in the overnight hours, with several waves of attacks documented over the last 12 hours. Iran is known to have scored direct or partial hits, or otherwise caused damage through falling missile debris at US regional bases in Jordan, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and elsewhere. Bahrain in particular has seen.
If you guys have seen my channel before, you guys already know how emotional I get about everything. And this situation just really saddens me overall. So I might not have much to say, but I just still feel it's important to learn and know. So, but it's just it's very overwhelming to see.
US regional bases in Jordan, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and elsewhere. Bahrain in particular has seen multiple recorded direct hits, including a missile strike at the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet, which was believed to have been mostly or fully evacuated over the last few days, and a kamikaze drone strike on a radar dome. In the early morning hours, on March the 1st, the American airbase in Kurdish-controlled Erbil, Iraq, was struck with unknown munitions in what appeared to be a direct hit. Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and other nations have all announced their own successful missile interceptions, and both Israeli and US forces appear to have successfully intercepted dozens, if not hundreds, of incoming targets so far. For a bit of perspective, we should emphasize...
I didn't even know that you can prevent them. Like, I knew that, but now I know that.
Dozens, if not hundreds, of incoming targets so far. For a bit of perspective, we should emphasize that the hits we've described thus far would be regarded as only mild damage relative to what's possible in a conflict like this. Even still, there are some notable commonalities between Iranian strikes thus far, specifically that they seem to be targeting US radar installations and other tools of situational awareness, possibly working to open a corridor for more substantial missile strikes later on. While the scope and targets of the US and Israeli offensive are still murky at this time, we do have some information on the strikes and engagements that have already taken place. US CENTCOM confirmed that American strikes have focused on military command facilities, airfields, and air defense capabilities, suggesting that the US is focused on clearing out Iranian airspace and clearing a path for manned aircraft in the near future. Tacking onto that assessment, Israeli sources claim to national media that they expect to establish air superiority above Iran within the next 24 hours as of the time that this episode is released. Other unconfirmed reports suggest that
What day are we on? It's the 2nd of March.
American F-35 stealth jets shot down a group of Iranian MiG-29s in what would be one of the more significant air-to-air engagements of the 21st century thus far. Also significant from a military perspective was the United States' first known use of its own, low-cost, one-way attack drones, devices known as the Lucas, and modeled after Iran's highly successful Shahed 136. Online, Iranian state media and telecommunications sites have come under attack, and a popular prayer app was hacked to display messages calling on Iranian troops to take to the streets and help overthrow the regime. Along Iran's coast, satellite imagery confirmed that the United States has hit at least one warship, and America's carrier strike group in the region is believed to be attacking every naval facility within reach. Some of America's specific targets suggest that the US is highly aware of the locations of supply depots, missile storage sites, smaller military leadership compounds, and other targets that lack symbolic value, but are especially important in dismantling Iran's tactical capabilities.
No, I feel like USA has all the tools and the knowledge to be able to deal with the situation, but it's just how do you deal? But wow. I feel overwhelmed, to say the least.
Offshore oil tanker crews are reported that they'd also heard explosions near Karg Island, where Iran exports roughly 90% of all of its crude oil. On the other side, Iranian proxy forces are believed to be getting involved. Yemen's Houthi rebels have vowed to resume attacks against Red Sea shipping, and an Iran-allied militia in Iraq claimed an attack on the US airbase in Erbil, Iraq on Saturday. Also in Iraq, protesters near Baghdad's Green Zone reportedly attempted to storm the US embassy on Sunday morning, although, as of the time of writing, they are not known to have breached the perimeter. Conversely, the Hezbollah organization in Lebanon condemned the strikes against Iran, but has given no indication that it intends to respond militarily. As for the current counts of dead and wounded, US CENTCOM indicated on Saturday that there have been no casualties or combat-related deaths in the first 12 hours. By Sunday morning, that may have changed, with a combat rescue helicopter tracked on a journey from Bahrain to Qatar, but any casualties have not yet been announced as of the time of writing. In Israel, over 100 people were reported injured, most with minor injuries, and one woman was confirmed dead in Tel Aviv on Saturday night. According to the Iranian Red Crescent, 201 people were confirmed dead and over 740 injured as of the evening of the 28th of February. That death toll is expected to rise in the coming hours. Critically, the US and Israel have not avoided civilian casualties. Global media has confirmed that a strike impacted a girls' school in southern Iran. The death toll at that site has now climbed to 148, according to officials on the ground, with the death toll at that site has now climbed to 148, according to officials on the ground, with most of the dead being children. The fate of the Ayatollah. Easily the most important development from the conflict in Iran is the death of Supreme Leader.
That does make me really sad, because children have nothing to do with this and shouldn't have nothing to do with this.
Easily the most important development from the conflict in Iran is the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. According to Israeli media, Khamenei's primary compound was hit with a bombardment of some 30 or more missiles at the start of the offensive, and Iranian state media confirmed that he died in his office rather than in a fortified bunker where he had taken refuge during prior waves of Israeli or US airstrikes. In the following hours, Western media claimed that Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu and then US President Donald Trump had been shown an image of Khamenei's corpse. After nearly a full day of denial in the early hours of Sunday morning, Iranian state TV made it official. The Ayatollah was dead. Khomeini had served as Iran's supreme leader since 1989 and was 86 years old at the time of his passing.
Since 1989. That is a long time.
But Khomeini is not the only key Iranian figure who died in the American and Israeli assault. Also thought to be among the deceased was Khomeini's son, Mojtaba, a highly influential cleric with a key role in managing the regime's offshore finances. While Khomeini has no formally appointed successor, his son was believed to be on the shortlist of people who might have taken over after his death. Khamenei and his son were killed alongside Iran's defense minister, its intelligence minister, the leader of the Supreme Leaders Military Command, and the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Several important intelligence figures, several high-level advisors to Iran's nuclear program, and most of Khamenei's closest personal aides are also believed to be dead. Early reports from US...
What happens? What happens then? How do they build that back up again if the head of, the top is kind of destroyed?
Most of Khamenei's closest personal aides are also believed to be dead. Early reports from US and Israeli officials suggest that if the strikes really did manage to take out such a large number of key Iranian leaders, then it's because the US chose to break its own recent habit of strictly nighttime attacks and launch its opening barrage against Tehran during the mid-morning hours. Iranian leaders apparently thought they'd be safe during that time, especially given that it was during Israel's weekly Shabbat and during daytime fasting in the Islamic holy period of Ramadan. As such, they're believed to have been holding meetings at several locations at the time that those sites came under attack. Even if such a high proportion of Iran's leadership is now dead, however, we need to emphasize killing them, and them alone, does not constitute regime change. Iran isn't Venezuela, where the US could whisk away a single strongman in Nicolas Maduro and simply expect that the malleable, self-interested elites who had surrounded him would cut deals with Washington to keep themselves alive. The Iranian regime is far stronger, and it's known to have designated wartime powers and highly detailed succession plans all up and down the ranks before these strikes began. Iran's president, its foreign minister, and the leader of the Iranian army are all either known or believed to be alive. So is Ali Larijani, a man international observers have identified as a...
Oh, okay. I got confused. I thought, okay. So, okay.
Be alive. So is...
Okay, I had to take a moment for my brain to process what I'm hearing.
Ali Larijani, a man international observers have identified as a potential successor. As of now, Khamenei's formal successors have already been designated, with the country's president, its judiciary chief, and a highly ranked jurist set to form a council that will transition Iran to new leadership. But regime continuity goes far deeper than that. The supreme leader and his allies delegate their wartime power. They enter these engagements with the assumption that they may not survive, and they leave their designated successors with the information and contacts that they'll need to keep up the fight. That's not to say that the US and Israel can't achieve regime change during these operations, but killing Khamenei and his allies will only be the first step. Their successors will have to be hunted down too, and their successors after that, and so on until the remnants of the regime can no longer coordinate a coherent offense. And even if that happens, there's a real chance that international factions will try to seize power, whether from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the intelligence services, or political factions who are ultimately loyal to the current leadership.
This seems so complicated.
Now, of course, the X factor in all of that would be Iran's protesters, and as of now, footage indicates that crowds took to the streets in Tehran, Shiraz, and elsewhere in celebration of the Ayatollah's death. But those protests haven't yet come anywhere close to the size of January's movement, and although they've seen protesters tear...
This is so confusing to me. I mean, at the same time it's not, but at the same time it is, and it's like there's so much emotion going on in all the ways possible that it's
haven't yet come anywhere close to the size of January's movement, and although they've seen protesters tear down statues and remain in the streets in some places, sources on the ground reported security forces opening fire on demonstrators elsewhere. And before we move on from there, we've got to take a moment to highlight the place to go to for even more information on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, as well as many other conflicts and geopolitical flashpoints that shape our world. And that would be Front.co. It's our team's written news website, premium subscriber service, and one-stop shop for all of the in-depth analysis that we can offer. Our core team works with award-winning journalists and to all of those who already subscribe, and now let's get back to Iran. The attacks on the Gulf. From the death of Khamenei, we've got to travel westward to the states of the Persian Gulf, where a parallel crisis is playing out as we speak. Prior to the start of the US and Israeli campaign, Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and others had been lobbying Washington continuously, urging de-escalation in order to ensure that the Gulf didn't come under attack. A high share of the world's oil and gas supply travels out of the Persian Gulf every day, and by A high share of the world's oil and gas supply travels out of the Persian Gulf every day, and by targeting that energy infrastructure, Iran could hold global markets hostage, cause immense economic damage to its neighbors, and force the US to back down. Now, though, it appears that Iran has made a critical strategic miscalculation. Over the first day of back-and-forth strikes, Iran did target the nations of the Persian Gulf, but it didn't primarily target their energy infrastructure. Instead, Iran hit numerous civilian and infrastructural targets across the region, including the international airports in Kuwait and Dubai, the capital cities of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, and the National Security Agency of Bahrain, among others. Also in Bahrain, footage depicted Iranian drones slamming into the sides of 2 residential towers, one of which was completely engulfed in flames by that night. Later in the day, Bahrain's international...
And this is because of a miscalculation, he said? Or is this... I am confused. So, okay.
One of which was completely engulfed in flames by that night. Later in the day, Bahrain's international airport was struck as well, and on the following morning, Bahrain's Crown Plaza Manama took a direct hit. In the Emirates, Iranian drones reportedly threatened the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, although one was intercepted moments before impact, and another ended up impacting another civilian building nearby. Dubai's famous Fairmont Hotel and Burj Al Arab Hotel were each hit by an Iranian drone, its Jebel Ali port was set alight by intercepted debris, and a Kuwaiti naval base came under direct attack. One Pakistani citizen was confirmed killed in the Emirates, where government officials reported that it had been targeted with 137 missiles and 209 drones by Saturday night, most of them intercepted. In theory, it's not all that difficult to piece together the thinking that might have informed Iran's actions. Anticipating strikes against energy infrastructure, Gulf states would probably have moved their air defenses to match, meaning that strikes on oil fields or refineries might not have been successful, but civilian targets were undefended. Iran clearly focused on striking centers of financial power in the region, especially Dubai, where it could shatter perceptions of a safe, secure enclave in the heart of the Middle East. Iran could partially justify those strikes by saying that it was attacking US military installations in the region, fueling perceptions that collateral damage to the Gulf states was just inevitable. By posing an acute threat to the nations of the Gulf and specifically attacking targets that Gulf states might not have been prepared to defend, Iran was probably hoping to seize on the panic that the Gulf states had clearly been feeling and sending them into an all-out nervous breakdown on Washington's doorstep. With enough pressure from its Gulf allies...
I'm not speaking on this video, guys. Like, I'm not commenting much because I feel like there's nothing interesting or any insight or anything that I can add to it. So I hope you guys don't mind that I'm just here. I'm just watching with you because
perhaps the US would choose to back down. Reality, however, played out a bit differently. Instead of sparking panic, Iran's strikes appear to have drawn the Gulf states together, and now nations that have been firmly at odds over the last few months have started to rally against Iran. Saudi Arabia and the Emirates in particular have expressed alignment in their desire to protect and defend the Gulf no matter what it takes, and the other nations of the region are following suit. Even Turkey's president has weighed in, condemning Iran's attacks in a clear show of support for the Gulf states' severe response. While Saudi Arabia hasn't yet made any public statements to this effect, anonymous Middle Eastern sources have signaled to the global press that it's increasingly likely that the Saudis will allow the US to use its territory to continue its offensive. Basically, it now appears that the Gulf states have taken the opposite stance from what Iran had intended, that they had been signaling as clearly as they possibly could that they intended to sit on the sidelines for this war, and now that Iran has chosen to attack them anyway, appeasement of the Iranian regime is off the table. While the Gulf states don't go to war very often, or at least not directly, they do possess substantial air power and now have sufficient justification to eliminate the Iranian threat directly. Finally, we'll briefly check in on the Strait of Hormuz, the critical waterway that allows the passage of Gulf shipping traffic toward the rest of the world. According to European Union security officials, Iran has been broadcasting a message since yesterday insisting that no ship will be allowed to pass. Ship tracking data indicates that, as of the time of writing, most trade vessels have stopped in place, returned to port, or have started to wait in the Gulf of Oman. Iran hasn't officially confirmed any closure to the strait, and it doesn't appear to have been mined by Iranian vessels. But global ship insurers may have finished the job on Iran's behalf, cancelling policies and jacking up prices for any vessel that attempts a crossing. For all practical purposes, that means the strait is closed, with the threats being broadcast from Iranian shores, serving as a further deterrent. If that situation doesn't change by Monday, then the impact of the ongoing conflict will show itself in global markets. At this time, it's still conceivable that a combination of market anxiety and pressure from the Gulf states urging the US to create the conditions to reopen the Persian Gulf could pressure Washington to draw down operations. But Iran may have spoiled that opportunity for itself, and if the Gulf states now calculate that it's more important to permanently eliminate the Iranian threat to the region, then the market response may not matter very much. For now, those are the essentials of the Middle East's expanding conflict: overwhelming US and Israeli air power, Iranian retaliation all across the region, and the death of Iran's supreme leader. In the coming days, we'll be back to provide updates on the situation, so if you'd like to learn more as the situation does develop, make sure you're subscribed to follow along. And as always, thanks for watching.
I'm sure this situation wasn't as unexpected for people who follow the news and know about it, but since I have never really actively been following the news, I just felt like all of this is so like everything's happening so quickly. It's I don't know how to explain it, but it just seems like very sudden. But I guess in the upcoming days we'll see how this situation plays out, and I really do hope that the civilians do stay safe, since especially the kids' schools, all the airports, the hotels, it's unfair. At least I think so. But either way, guys, thank you for joining me for this video. I hope you found it educational. And please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!